how carefully should you pay attention to power dynamics in your community? I'm here with Victor Salmon from victorsalmon.com, and I'm Kathy Bartoli from theintimacydojo.com. And we were just talking about how we can have privilege where we're like, oh, I'm a white person that can go to any city, and this actually happened. I feel bad about it still. I have an employee who's Hispanic, and as he's doing so good, he's an amazing person. And as kind of partly as a reward, it's like you get to go to this training class. And without thinking, I'm just like, would you like to go to Arizona or LA for this training class? And he's like, LA? And I'm like, why? And he's like, because I won't be arrested. And I'm like, oh, Arizona has a law that you can pull people over just based on their race. And I was like, I'm so sorry. It just hadn't, I was aware but not really conscious of it, because I have a privilege where I can go to any state in the country and feel pretty safe about it. And that's I need to be more aware and more conscious, and I apologized and doing my best to be more aware. But there's also invisible power dynamics we were talking. I'd love for you to talk a little more about that, because I think sometimes we don't always see ourselves as being powerful, but other people perceive us that way, and that creates this awkward feeling where oh, you have all this power, but you don't feel like you have all this power.
And you hit on something really important there, which is the difference between a tangible thing you can point at. So if you're trying to explain privilege to someone, you can tangibly point at, here's racism written into law.
Yeah.
You can tangibly point at, here are news reports of people suffering the real world oppression of racism.
Right.
And you can talk about lived experience of, I saw a police car. I mean, one of the, I shouldn't share that because I haven't asked for permission to share it in public space. But if you want to know more about lived experience of oppression, and more interestingly to me, the intersection of non-monogamy and racial oppression, you can read Love's Not Colorblind by Kevin Patterson, who I think is out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, he's amazing. Polyrole-models.com. He's an amazing person. So
Yes. Right. We were talking about invisible power dynamics.
Yeah.
So there's real world oppression, and that can be very invisible to a person who hasn't sort of woken up to, oh wow, this is a type of privilege that I benefit from. So good on you for doing the work to be aware of it.
Well, I mean, I felt bad because I had been aware, but it kind of wasn't in my thought process at that time, and I felt bad that, and we have a good relationship. He didn't feel like I was trying to be mean about it, but I felt bad that I hadn't even considered it when I offered that. And
that's really normal. Both that a person will fail to consider it because it's not part of their lived experience, and that they'll feel pretty terrible afterwards, which is legitimate. The important thing is coming back to a place of healthy guilt rather than toxic shame.
I'm a bad person. No, I made a mistake. I apologized. I'm going to be more aware going forward.
That's right. I did a bad thing. It doesn't mean I should carry shame of my identity with me.
Right.
That's the way that I look at it as a mixed race person.
Yeah.
But, invisible power dynamics.
Yeah.
So the notion of invisible power dynamics is it has more to do with perception than it has more to do with perceived status. To me, this is again how I frame it.
No, I resonate very strongly with this. And as someone who's somewhat insecure and tends to look at everyone else as being more powerful, to me, I run into this sometimes where people are like, you're powerful. And I'm like, no, really? Where? Okay. Or micro power, in a microclimate. I have some power.
I like that you use the word microclimate. In certain social settings, it's we have this perceived power or status. So if I'm teaching, for example, it doesn't matter that I'm not marking exams.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's a sort of institutionalized power dynamic.
You're in front of the class.
Even if you're not in front of the class, if the teacher is just talking with you after class one-on-one, there is huge power that they can, especially if you're a professional student like I was at one point. I mean, technically not, but I was pre-med when I was doing my degree in molecular genetics. The point I'm making is that if a person gives you an F or even a B minus, it can severely derail your whole career path. It's very significant to your life outcome. And it doesn't take much for a respected tenured person to just say, yeah, it was just a B minus paper versus a B plus paper. And they could choose to leverage that as an institutionalized form of power with serious life consequences. That is a different kind of power than an invisible perceived power that you can't easily point at.
Right.
It's just a mention of saying this person admires the shit out of your work. the whole star fucker effect that we see in alternative communities all the time, where a brand new person comes into the community, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and says, "Oh my God, this person's absolutely amazing. I want to have the babies."
Yes.
that's a huge amount of responsibility that we're putting on leadership and educators to say, "Hey, you have to watch out for this, because it's not something that can easily be pointed at, but it's something people will grill you for after the fact." If that person comes away from that experience and says, "I felt manipulated, it was non-consensual," then you manipulated them in some way or shape or form, whether you meant to or not. It may have been totally inadvertent, but the very fact of your status, like, these are the invisible power dynamics that coerce consent out of people, that when you're sure you've done your best practices and you've gotten a good prior consent, those invisible power dynamics were coercing that prior consent, and you end up in situations where you don't have ongoing consent after the fact.
Yeah, well, I think it's really, I want to talk about ongoing consent in a different video, because I think it's on the topic, but I think that the problem with the invisible power dynamics is I may not be aware of, like, I'm very shy. Like I said, I started shooting videos partly because it was a way for me to get to know people and have people remember me, like make a difference in the world. And the very first Catalyst Con I went to, one of the people that I'd shot a lot of videos with was like, "People will know you because you're in videos." And I'm like, "No one's going to know me. I'm just nobody in the community." And he bet me $5. Every time someone came up and said, "I've seen your videos," I had to pay him $5. And I was like, it was a bad bet. Like $45, I said, "Never mind, I'll buy you dinner, we're done." But it really pointed to me, like, people like, "Oh my God, I've watched your videos." And we have, some people just resonate with the videos, and like, "I stayed home sick the other day and I watched 8 hours of your videos." And like, I'm like, "Wow, thank you. How sick were you? What did you take? Some cold medicine or something?" But you know, it's like they built up they feel like they know me. And I think that because they watch me we have an association. If you're watching someone on screen, they're important. But I can't see that when I see them. If they don't tell me that they've done this, I don't understand that they're viewing me perhaps as having some power.
Yeah, it's that invisible stage.
Right. And I might have read their book or something and go like, "Oh my God, this person, oh my God." I've fangirled on a few people. But it's this invisible, like, dance we're doing, and we don't always know how other people are perceiving us. And we don't always, like, you know, some of us are more confident than others. And so I know there's some people like walk into a room like, "Yep, I got this." And I walk into a room going, "Is there anyone I know?" Like, so I find it very challenging. And I find it when I've seen people call other people out on power dynamics when they were these invisible ones versus the very privileged ones. Privileged ones, I think, are more clearly defined. Like, we can look at it and say that this group of people clearly has benefit because of their skin color or their gender or whatever it is. In general, in society, they have a difference. But the invisible ones, the power dynamics in a community, it's like, just because I perceive that doesn't mean anyone else in the room perceives that person the same way, and doesn't mean that they know I perceive them that way. So how do we balance that? Like, you know, it's hard to tell if someone has a starfucker energy versus this person just really likes me.
I have definitely watched a sex educator who is super interested in an experienced person in my community. And the funny part was, I had knowledge that this person was totally, like, 100% would sleep with this individual. I love all the videos that they've done having sex. I think they're a simply amazing individual. I would just love to have them in my body. Like, right. I want to have sex with this person. But also be the kind of person that was fairly introverted, fairly held back. So their thought was, I know that he's into these specific things. I'm going to wear this amazing latex dress. I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to wear it. And I'm just hoping, like, I can catch his attention and he'll come talk to me. And sure enough, I'm watching this person very cautiously sidle up a little bit closer, a little bit closer. It's like every minute or so, all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, they're about a foot closer together. Like, they're getting closer. And like 10 minutes go by and they're in a conversation. And I'm like, I just didn't understand humans interacted this way. But sure enough, that's what it is.
Yeah. I just think I wonder as a community how much we can hold someone accountable for a power differential that we're not aware of, where we're like there may be a group that we consider really, really amazing. Like, I'm authors, I'm like, wow, that's a ton of work. I really admire authors, versus someone who's an author who's really shy that would love to do videos might be like, you do videos, and like we're trying to dance with each other, and that's like who's leading and who's not, and what's the power differential. How do we, I'm not sure how we know how to take that into account. And then I have an issue a little bit with how do we call people in,
sure,
if they're not even aware, like privilege we can become aware of versus the invisible.
People can definitely become aware of invisible power dynamics, or at least they can become suspicious of them.
Yes, definitely.
My answer to how, sorry, I didn't cut you off. My answer to how would we call someone in? My answer would be immediately.
Yeah.
If somebody is unaware of power that they're accidentally throwing around, it's the equivalent of holding a 2x4 over your shoulder and not being aware of whose head you might smash it.
Yeah.
You need to let them know that 2x4 exists, even if their eyes are this way and the 2x4 is that way.
Yeah, no, that's a really good analogy.
And I mean, maybe we can get someone to help them tie a flag on it, so people know this person is not super aware of this invisible power dynamic. So, like, please be mindful these things have happened in the past. So it comes back to, you can call them in immediately, and you can make the community aware that there is an ongoing issue with the individual. And again, that doesn't have to come with shame. It's a question of informed consent. It's a question of making the community a safer place. It's less a question of shaming people out of the community, especially when we're talking about people who are dealing with these invisible power dynamics.
Yeah.
It comes back to, I was unaware and now have become aware and will do my very best to not abuse that invisible power in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's hard. We don't have these little displays on our, like, I've watched 10 of your videos. I think you're you're a 7 on the power scale and I'm a 5. Like, we don't have these like relative things popping up that we can, and hopefully we have enough communication that will come up, and we don't always know.
I'm hearing what you're saying. So it's less about the dynamic being mostly invisible and more about a person saying, I just don't know that this person is like a closet stan, right? They're like standing my work.
Right.
Which for those of you Gen X who may not know is stalker fanning.
Yeah.
It's like when you're fanning to the point that it's like an unhealthy level of fanning.
Yeah.
So I think what's neat about that example is most of the time, people that are standing give themselves away. Most of the time, people that have seen 1 billion hours of your videos and are just starstruck have tells of being starstruck.
Yeah.
And once you're made aware to look for them, you can usually identify them without people even telling you. So there are going to be situations where if someone doesn't inform you, yes, you can say to some extent you weren't giving informed consent either.
Yeah.
However, I think the majority of times people have tells and people will outright say things like, I saw 8 hours of your video.
Yeah.
And that might lead you to a place where you're like, wow, I'm really happy this person admires me, and if this person wants to have sex with me, there's no way in hell I'm going to do it because clearly I don't feel like I'm in a place where I can negotiate on a level playing field with this person.
Right. I would have to know them a lot longer and build a relationship that was based on something more than just the videos.
Yeah. More tangible than the person they think you are versus who you actually are.
And I just want to clarify, not everybody who watches 8 hours of video is a stalker at all. Please watch it. If you want to, feel free. But no, I think it's when people make stories up about the other person, they project their desires on the other person and they start creating something that's not real, that's when it's a problem.
Yes, please do stand my work. Just don't withhold that from me when we meet. I'll hopefully make good decisions about sex and kink and other things.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you very much. If you like Victor's work, please go to patreon.com/Victor Salmon. And if you have comments or questions, leave them below. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about, what was the one I said? The consent, ongoing consent.
Ongoing consent versus prior versus continuing.
Yes. All right. So thanks, Victor.
Bye.